Well, hello everyone, and I am excited today for today's live stream because I have been working on a project called OSS Summit. So it's basically a small project where we want to encourage the community to contribute to open source, and to do that, maybe track their contributions. So it basically tracks what the community is working on, all the contributions that they have made. So this is going to be commits, pull requests, issues that they have opened, and stuff like that. It's a small project that I started like last year, and a last year product hunt. A couple of people are already a part of it, and today what we are going to do is build a web app on top of that. Currently, OSS commit lives in a GitHub repo, and everything is alive in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly open it on my screen so that you can see what OSS commit looks like. So this is OSS commit. It contains all the information that we have, and we have got 5 people already involved for this. So we can see I'm just going to open a Morpheus's issue because he is going to be with us on this stream teaching us how to create a web app for this. So for a Morpheus, the commit goals are 100. Well, I'm sure it's just a placeholder for him. He has more commit goals than that, and he already might have had more commits. But yeah, and the pull request goals are 30 and the issue goals are 15. So what basically happens is someone creates a issue following the issue template that's like, hey, this is my goal for this year, these are my contribution goals for this year, and then we register them as one of the participants, one of the contributors to the project, and then we help them track their contributions. So currently everything is happening in this particular repo. So I'm just going to quickly put the link in the chat and in the show notes as well so that you can have it with you. Try it out, and if you have any feedback, just let us know. All right, so enough of me talking over here. I'm going to bring Yes, the way, aka Morpheus, on the stream. Hey, yes, how are you doing?
Hey folks. Um, yeah, so Harshal reached out to me regarding versus commit what uh, a month ago almost in December, mid December, early December, right? And it was a fun something fun project that I saw. And yeah, if you are familiar with me or how you might have already noticed that okay in past what they say a year or so I even I myself have been distracted a lot from just doing open source things and yeah building in public basically. So yeah, when just in the intro, right? Herschel said 100. I should have reached 100 commits by now, couple of years back, maybe probably, but right now, no, not at all. I probably not even have double digits right now. So yeah, let's get started with editing it, and I hope I can kick myself to do more OSS stuff this year with help of OSS commits and even building this web app itself.
Wonderful. All right. So years before jumping into that, we know we are gonna
Mm.
use a kind of a new tech stack. We're not gonna go with the ones we usually do, but that is just React. So any framework on top of React. I know in the past we have done a couple of live streams on Next.js as well. So do you wanna just talk a bit about what technologies we are gonna use, and maybe share why we are doing that?
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. So uh, for this time around, have we are planning to build the web front end side of the OSS commit with mainly two what they say two frameworks slash libraries. It's Vue 3 and Vite. So you might or might not be familiar with Vue depending on how new you are to what is a web development. It is a similar framework to React where it basically helps do the same things as React
Hmm.
does. Like you can develop your front end, you have your reactive data properties that you can change its value, and your template itself will get reflected, and it will generate nice looking HTML DOMs for you, and lot of bunch of things, right? Um, I won't go much in depth into that because I would say the folks themselves at Vue do that better than maybe I will ever do. So you can just Google Vue 3 and look more up on it. Why I'm specifically talking about Vue 3 is because Vue is currently right in like a transition phase. You can say the old one is the old version is basically Vue 2, which is now slowly paying what they say sunset. Like the application hasn't started, but from February 7th, the recommended Vue version will start to be the Vue 3 and not Vue 2. Right. So it is the up and coming, the new boy in the town. And yeah, now
Interesting.
coming
That's
to
interesting.
hmm,
We got Himanshu with us in the chat, and he says that it's all good and he's interested for this stream. He's really looking forward to it, and he came after seeing my tweet. That's interesting. So this means that my automation is working, and I'm really excited that it's working. It's still live because I stopped streaming for a while, and I think I switched. I turned off that automation, but hey, it's working. It's fine. Thank you, Himanshu, for joining in. Himanshu would love to know what tech stack you are using. Uh, yeah, just tell us what tech stack you are using and what do you want to learn out from the stream. Also, yes, do you mind sharing your
hmm,
screen? And I think we can share the screen with folks and show
yeah,
them what we are talking about.
hmm, it's already showing that I'm sharing the screen. Can you
Yeah,
check if you can pull
wonderful.
it in? Yeah.
All right, yeah, I can pull it in. Maybe you might want to change your window
Yeah,
first. Then
I'll change my tab to something that's yeah.
that's more useful. All right, fantastic. Okay, so till now, what I understood is we are going to use View 3 since View 3 is going to be more recommended than View 2. And we are going to use something that's called Vite, right, to
Yep.
do the build for us. So
Yes.
before Vite, what was being used and why do we want to not use that stuff and use Vite instead?
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. So, wheat is like part of the new, what they say, next gen front end tooling tools that have been coming up. It doesn't just like wheat doesn't do a single task, right? It uses a lot of other things in background, such as ES build, uh, and like other modern plugins, right, that work specifically with ESM modules, right, which is the new
Hmm.
spec modules compared to the common JS or the UMD modules, right? And it is basically the new boy in the town which provides you with very fast builds, right? And this is especially important during what they say for the developer experience, right, compared to the user experience, because user never comes across the build time or the build duration
Of
when
course.
we talk about front end frameworks like Vue or React, right? Whereas
Hmm.
we as developers, right, if you are familiar with React, right, the old React or the even you have worked with Vue too, and you have started using like fairly medium to large sized websites, right, or project, you would have noticed like whenever you run a build command, right, the it will go over to a lot of steps where it will be bundling stuff, building stuff, etc. And it will take almost a solid minute for medium sized project. And when we come talk about large projects, like even with good optimizations, it will be taking at least a couple of minutes. So wheat is basically uh, trying to focus that pain point a lot,
Hmm.
right? It does a lot of what you say under the hood changes about how things are built. It and in a very opinionated way, right?
Okay.
And it it purely focuses on being as fast as possible for from the perspective of like a
Makes
developer
sense.
or a DX perspective, a developer experience perspective, you would say.
Makes sense. Makes
Um,
sense.
the
And
thing, yeah,
Himanshu, yeah. And Himanshu over here says that he wants to learn about Vite.js. I think this is the best place to get started,
mm,
I guess, because we are gonna talk about Vite.js. We are gonna set up a repository on Vite.js, and then we are also gonna build a web app using that. So Himanshu, I am sure you are gonna enjoy this. So stay tuned and yeah. And if you have any questions, just feel free to post it in the chat because I think Yash has done a lot of research around wheat and he was like, hey Arshil, we should use Vite.js. I was like, okay, but you need to teach me how to do that. And that's what we are gonna do. So I am also gonna learn wheat with you, Himanshu. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. We can, always bother us with those questions. All right, yes. So you were saying,
yeah, yeah. So yeah, like wheat has like as soon as you get started with wheat, right, and you come to its get started guide, you will actually come across like why wheat, right? Why not
hmm,
something else? So and it will go into a lot of like in depth into what kind of things it does. But a major catch, I would say, like whenever we go with wheat is it is this one, right? The second point that you come across. So Vite is specifically built for you can say the modern JS, the ESM JS, which you can talk, right? And uh, the lots of legacy browsers like Internet Explorer and things don't support ESM
hmm,
natives like tech. So that's why you once you start going with Wheat, you will automatically be what is not supporting these things. They all do provide a plugin for like in case you want to add support for this. But now I see that it has not been a concern mainly because Microsoft has already put out a deprecation date for Internet Explorer, if I'm not wrong, and they will start recommending running the Internet Explorer mode in Edge to just like counter and and if you are running Internet Explorer like you're running Microsoft Edge, then Edge will automatically pick up that you are running a modern website and it won't
hmm.
enable Internet Explorer. So yeah, it isn't as much of a concern right now unless you are like targeting specifically those sites, uh, that user area. But uh, yeah, the trade-offs which we get like when leaving out support are most likely worth it, I would say.
Interesting, interesting.
So
And talking about,
starting,
yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
starting
I
with
was just
Vite
gonna
is like
put out
very
that.
easy.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so if you like even in getting started, right, they provide like Vite like just because Vite by was started like like what is initialized or started planning out by
Hmm.
folks who work primarily on Vue. It's not like Vite is meant for Vue, right? Vite is meant to be open and used by a lot of frameworks, as you can see over here. So no matter you do React, you do Svelte, you do Lit, or any other framework, like you most likely you will find that people are using Vite. Even projects like Astro have started planning or already have implemented Vite as the default build tool.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that was one of the questions that I was gonna ask you. Like, is Vite only usable for Vue, or there are other frameworks that we can use? But I think it is now already answered in here. Perfect. So, how would we go about, setting up a project on for Vite and yeah.
Yeah. So personally, like if you are like ground zero with Beat, right, and you don't know what you're doing, the best way to like just explore it, right, and work out like what they are doing in the documentation is with the start blitz quick start links that they provide here itself, right? They are like take a minute to start running and quickly just set themselves up. Yep. And you can just directly dive into like how your project is actually getting integrated with Wheat itself. Coming to OSS commit though, right? We are like just using Wheat, like we have certain things in our mind already that we want to add support for. So we will be starting with the you can say like a starter template, also very opinionated, built by Anthony Fu, who is a core, you can say co-member of the Nux team, and also for Vite team. I'm not sure in the second part, but definitely sure about the first part. And he has like a very opinionated template how things should be set up, and already like pre-built some of the integrations that we'll be needing, such
Mm-hmm.
as component auto importing, file-based routing, stuff like that, right? Basic CSS framework, etc. So we'll be starting with this template itself, right? And
Okay,
going from there.
wonderful. And we have a question from Himanshu. To explain a noob dev who knows HTML, CSS, JS, how to explain Vite in one line?
In one line. Whoa.
I like the question.
So let's say uh, you have just pure HTML, CSS, and JS knowledge with you, right? You know how to integrate them in Start, and you know how to write like a single HTML file, right? With all three of them involved, right? Basic things like that. But now, when you come across any, let's say, frameworks, right? So, like, what do you say? Your SaaS support, let's say, right? Your preprocessors. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever you start adding things to your front end tools, basically to your project, you will need some framework or some system to, whenever you eventually like output your final website, you will need something to automatically run those tasks for you, get all the files to in one place, optimize it, right? So we does that for you in very,
Okay.
what to say,
Mm-hmm.
simple terms.
Let me try a more concise way to put this.
Hmm.
So there are frameworks which allow you to build websites without the need of writing core HTML and CSS and sometimes JavaScript as well. Now what Vite does is it, because your browser only understands HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, Vite uh, builds those HTML, CSS, and JavaScript from what you have written in that framework, and Vite does it pretty quickly, more efficiently. Yeah, anything that I should add in here? I think that is, I think, a one line definition.
Yeah, I would say like, but that is like very what you say generalized. It isn't
Yeah,
that
of
simple,
course.
sadly.
But we had to give a one line definition.
Yeah, one line definition. I think that is pretty fitting. I would say yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So moving forward, we are gonna use how it's called. Wit is
Wheat. No, it's just V
no,
double
no,
E
no,
T.
no. I'm talking
Okay.
about
The starter template, right?
yeah,
I think it is Vites. Let
Wit
me
is
just
okay.
check with the main project if they are added like a pronunciation. Or no, I don't think so.
I sometimes believe that every project should have a pronunciation for that because
I
people
know, like
like me
we need
really
a,
need that.
a description. Yeah, especially like in the view side of things, right? There are a lot of these gotchas. Like if a very simple one is the framework itself, right? It's spelled as VUE, right? And you think
Hmm.
like it should be on the view or something like that, right? But it's actually the French word for view. So the creator intends it to be pronounced as view and not view or things like that.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
yeah, you'll find like a lot of gotchas in the view line of things about these. So I would definitely say they should start like adding. Okay, pronounce it like this.
Perfect. So we are gonna use this. Anything else that we should be aware about or we need to do?
Um, there are other things that we will be like using, right? But I
Hmm.
will start explaining them as we come across them in the
Okay.
while building.
Wonderful.
Right, just
Wonderful.
talking
So
about things won't be that helpful.
exactly. So do you wanna get started?
Yep, let's go. So since Herschel has already like created a repo for us, we will be initting this locally and then pushing it to the server. So
Once we have that,
we
I'll share the link in the chat so that other people can also
Yep, check it out.
keep a track of what we are doing, and if they want, they can contribute as well.
So, and what the, I copied the enter key as well. I'll just type it up. Alright.
All right. So you've ran the command npx take it. All right. To just
So,
initialize the repo. Wonderful.
yep. So we have our own repo ready over here,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a lot of things you might be coming across for newly. Like if you are not familiar with like what's going on in the uh, extra like modern side of GS, right? So one of the newest things you might come across is PNPM.
Mm-hmm.
So PNPM is again an alternative to NPM or uh, yarn. The main difference is over here is PNPM tries to make effective use of your disk space, and in that way, like it also results in being a decent amount of chunk faster than mainly NPM. Yarn is still like comparable in some scenarios, but
Mm-hmm.
it is way faster than NPM. The gist of it is when you talk about npm, you install modules or libraries within npm, right? What it will do is inside your node module folders, that will be like a flat file structure. So you will notice that every project you see over here is a flat file, in a kind of flat file linked to standard, like
Okay.
all the libraries are, or all the libraries and even their dependencies are directly linked over here or directly present over here. What PNPM does is it will actually do them like add dependencies as they are meant to be added. So let's say you have your ESLint dependency, right? And there is another
Mm-hmm.
dependency in the ESLint. So the dependency for ESLint will be inside ESLint and not like a flat file structure. So your
Gotcha.
node module itself won't be bombarded with it. So that way it will have like a what they say a more hierarchical structure to how
Mm-hmm.
dependencies are kept. Apart from that, another optimization it does is it has like this global common store or a global common dash for all the dependencies that you're using. And what it will do is it will, whenever you install a new thing, it will first check against that global store if you have that dependency already installed. If you have that, it will just copy is like a rough word, but all that particular dependency from here to here, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
own project, and even within your project, right? If it is being used multiple times, it will only install it once and then symlink it other times to your what do you say
Interesting.
other dependence. So this like their introduction motivation section goes through it like nicely. They have a good like graph and things to explain as well. So as like they have the store itself, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a .pm file every time in your like a hidden folder in your own computer, and it under it your new models will each have their own dependencies. So these will be hard linked from the store. And if let's say you have a project called bar 1.00 and bar 1.00 installed multiple times, right? It will add it once and then it will symlink similarly here as well. So that way, like as you saw, right, like this install was crazy fast compared to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you had installed it with npm or something like that. A catch here for it is it's not a big catch, but a catch here for it is like a lot of cloud providers right now do not support PNPM, right? So they will only either run like npm install or a yarn install for you. But a good way to circumvent it is PNPM is available over NPX, right? So you can just do NPX PNPM install. just prefix all commands with npx, and that way it should done, do a lot of stuff
Hmm.
for you automatically.
Interesting. Interesting.
Right?
I
But
might have to
once like the
look
cloud
more into that.
providers, yeah, but once like the cloud providers themselves have this feature, then you don't even need that hack. Uh, for it. I think there will be a similar one present over here as a, yeah, you see. So this repo comes with pre-configured toml for Netlify setup, right? But we might go
Hmm.
with other one. I'm not sure, like we might go with Vercel or stuff. We'll discuss it when the time comes, right? But as you see here, right, the for building, the command itself is npxp npmi, and yeah, things like
Gotcha.
this.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Cool. So yeah, that was like the basic. Let's just another thing is like if you're familiar with npm, right? The all the
Hmm.
commands are similar. So if you do npm install, it's pnpm install. If you are doing npm run
Ah,
dev,
okay.
it's pnpm run dev.
Okay.
So it's just one-to-one translation. You so there's no like okay, and now I have to go and understand how the commands for this library work.
Hmm.
No
Exactly.
catch like that. It's same as npm. So
That's good. That's
and
good because the
yeah,
commands for yarn and npm are quite different. So oftentimes you might have to,
mm,
like I have to always search for some commands just to understand, okay, this particular library is using npm. I know I can use it with yarn, but what are the equivalent commands for that? So that's interesting and wonderful. Yeah. I was gonna ask you to increase the screen. This is perfect.
is this better or should I bump it one more?
I think this looks better to me. Let me know, folks. What do you think? Do you want us to increase the size? Is this good enough? Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly quickly summarize what we did. So we initialized the project with a kind of a boilerplate that we were using.
Yeah.
Yes, if you can just maybe share the link so that I can uh, share it with
Yes.
everyone else in the chat.
Uh, I should have popped out that chat box. Man, if I prepare yourselves
Yeah,
to
we cannot.
be what you say, enter inception mode because once I switch
Yeah,
over,
no worries. But I can just no mind. I'll be able to do that. I guess. Let me do
okay,
that.
that would be nice. Yeah. Yeah, I really should have set up an extra screen. It's just that we encountered some last minute problems with that.
That's how I stream, right? Okay. Himanshu says if we can increase it a bit, while Arpan says it's
Okay.
good. I think let's just increase it, a bit.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, this is perfect. Himanshu, let us know if you want us to increase it more, or if this is fine. But yeah, yes, let's just go ahead and start working on this now.
Sure. Sure. Yep. So uh, another. So yep. Let's say we have some of our again things this built itself, right? So let's just like see how the base app looks. So we do PNPM and dev, and yep, the website is already up and running. So just say enter name. Yep, it says that it supports dynamic routes, stuff like that. And
And out of the
yeah, it's
box, that's
running
wonderful.
out of the box.
Wonderful.
Exactly. A lot of support for theming and stuff as well. So everything installed correctly. Stuff is running.
Hmm.
Stuff is working. Right. Um. hmm. So, whoops. So with the template that we started with is the Vitesse or Vitesse Lite, right? There's also like a more featured template called Vitesse, which has support for a lot of more things like PWA, layout system, and stuff like that. That come pre-configured, right? It's not like we can't add them to Vitesse Lite. So just check
Hmm.
out what features it supports. We will probably be adding support for SSG and layout files because that is important to us as well.
Okay.
Um,
Uh,
hmm,
Now that we are talking about SSG and we are gonna edit, are we gonna edit right now? That's my first question.
that's what I am thinking as well. What do you think? Should we pre-configure everything from right now, or let's
Yeah,
prefer
let's
coding and
probably,
set up later?
like, we would need SSG, right? That's what we want to build
Yes,
this.
we will.
We want
We
it
will
to be an
definitely.
SSG. So let's just at least add SSG and then we can uh,
Cool.
look into other things later. And while
Cool.
you are doing that, do you mind explaining what SSG is for the folks, who don't
Yeah.
know about it?
So when we talk about how, again, sites or front end frameworks are used, right, there are a lot of different ways. If you are already familiar with uh, what they say, how node what node the frameworks of old, like ASP.NET Core, or those do them, right, you will notice that uh, they have, like, an HTML page is generated every time your, what do you say, how do I
You
explain it
make
better?
changes and you do something else?
No, not even like that. Like, whenever you make a request, right, a page is dynamically
Mm,
generated
okay.
for you, and that HTML code itself is sent as a response to your request from the browser. So when modern JS frameworks came, right, they started doing things a bit differently. What they did was they had this added this thing called an SPA, or a single page app, right? And
Mm,
the benefit of that was uh, your common things, like it was basically an SPA stands for a single page app. So instead of having multiple pages, your bundle output was actually just a single page. And that single page using JavaScript got dynamically, like, its own contents got dynamically replaced with
okay.
whatever the new page data is supposed to be. So coming to how we do these things. The NSPA was, as I said, right, it was single page, and JavaScript did replace things. Now, within this SPA mode, a lot of like a lot of different variants started coming in, right? So
Mm,
there was Gatsby, which initially brought in you SSD a lot of stuff, right? You have your initial output of how websites should look as pre-generated, right? It will be solid .html pages that will be built during build time before you publish your site. And once someone opens your website, they'll be immediately served that HTML page, and then it will be converted to an SPA with help of
okay.
hydration. That was
Interesting.
what, like, innovation that Gatsby brought in. Then so that was like SS. So that was static site generation with
Mm,
uh, what is hydration, and it was like combination, like a hybrid of purely static and dynamic. Now, coming to SSD static site generation is purely what you do is you know that all your data in your website isn't dynamic. And when I say isn't dynamic, it's not like it will never change, right? It will change, but you have a fairly good idea of when that data will change, and
mm,
how it will change, right? So you have, like, data sources to fetch all that data from. You know, once it changes, it will stay like that until the next change comes. So, and yeah, it's not like, when I say static, it's not like hard coding. It's more like, okay, you have a good guess of how that data will be updated, and whenever that
mm,
data will be updated, you when that data will be, you have a good idea of. So, and if you have these two things with you, what you can do is you can just, instead of like generating that page dynamically for every user, you can just pre-build all those requests as response. And now, whenever what is a request comes in, you can just directly serve that HTML file instead of just going with,
gotcha.
oh, I need
So
to generate this page. I need to generate this page.
can you just try to explain it in terms of a project OSS commit so that people get
Yeah,
more context?
same. Sure. So, Coming to our project versus commit. Uh, thing, our thing is the main idea of this project is once you have your commitments on how many commits or pull requests you will do, you you have your own numbers set, right? So again, that is a
Hmm.
fixed point source of data for us. Next, we know that the your progress updates, right? Will the progress updates that you will get, that will be purely monthly and not like one what they say a day by on a day by day kind of like thing. So we know that your data will only change once every beginning of the month. So
Right.
again, that's a point to set, right? So we can derive your progress at the start of the month using some simple mathematics and data from your GitHub, public GitHub data, like how many open source commits you have done, how many pull requests you have made, etc. Right? The GitHub API can provide us with data, with that data, and that way we can calculate uh, your progress at the start of each month. So both our points are set for us, right? So then there is not much sense for us to what to say build it dynamically where every time let's say Arpan or Himanshu want to check their progress, right? They every time they hit a refresh, we fetch all that data from GitHub, again calculate it and then serve it. Right? It doesn't make that much sense for us.
Hmm.
We know it's only updated once a month. So that's where SSD helps, right? At the start of every month, we can tell our app, like, okay, it's time for you to rebuild, recalculate all the progress for us, right? And once it's created for the next 30 days, it's going to stay the same. So next time, throughout that month, whenever anyone wants to check the data, they can just open the website and we already have that whole page ready. Like, okay, this is your data, and we can serve it immediately to you.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Wonderful. And I earlier saw that you have already installed the SSG plugin and also set it up in package.json to use it for building.
And the final thing is, right, we cannot find Apple. I'm not really. Ah, these. Let me check. We will handle this just a second. And the final step we have to do is we need to export a create app constant from here. So yeah, we have this this okay. Mm-hmm. Mm.
But the create app should be wrapped in white SSG, right? We are not doing that. Vite SSG. Did you see the line
Yeah,
below that?
that's yes, that's what I was checking out as well. So here and normally what they're doing is they are finding that create app from view itself, right? And
Hmm.
that's what they're exporting directly. We don't want to, we want to create our own create app, and that is found by running the Vite SST. So hmm, we will need to keep this because these are our CSS frameworks. So we want this. We will keep our app.vim import because that is our entry point to our
Hmm.
application, right?
I just
Routes
love that
and
they have Tailwind as, kind of the default CSS thing. That,
yes. So I've come to Uno CSS out of it. It is very fancy and as you aptly mentioned, right? We have good tailwind startup for us. Um, so probably I'm not sure we if we need to keep these routes section, right? Maybe we SSD just handles it for us. But let's check out with like the parent project that has support
hmm.
for this, right? So we will know directly that oh, this is how we set up. So let's go to main.python, right? And they have imported this, and they have imported the generated routes as well from here, right? And they have the okay. We don't need the layouts file because are we planning to take benefit of layouts as well, Hashim? If so, we might as well install it together.
Not at this point, I don't think.
You don't think, right?
Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep. So they are declaring routes with help of setup layouts, right? And so we won't be needing that. So we can just directly use our routes. So this, I think the Vue router is the one which you can omit, and this as well, which you can omit. So let's import the SSG and it and just put this this whole shebang. So we have our routes. We have a context for each. Okay, install all modules. Basic. So, so if we go back to the ref for this, right, what's
Mm-hmm.
happening over here is we are telling Vite.js that okay, this is the entry point for our app. So
Okay.
the thing with all JS, if you don't know what an entry point is, right? The thing with all front end libraries like React, like Vue, anything, right? They act as like since they all of them are meant to be used as SPAs, right? Things like
Mm-hmm.
SSG and stuff is built on top of them, right? So we make that as we build that SPA and then convert it into an SSG, right? That's how these
Okay.
things work. In a what is a very crude explanation. So talking so every so in an SPA, I told you right. There's only the single page that is registered, and then that page's contents itself get replaced, right? So this app.view is our like single page or the entry point for our app.
Mm-hmm.
We know that okay, this is what we will be using, and this will how our app this basically it is the entry point for our app in a very simple fashion, right?
Gotcha.
So we give our entry point, and next we have some uh, we are providing it the routes. So with routes, what we are doing is we are just telling, okay, hey, since this is an SSD, right? So an SSD wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
know, okay, this is the page I have to build. This is the page I have to build, right? We in dynamic runtime, like in a single page app, this is calculated in runtime. Like when you click on a link, it will compute. Okay, oh, I need to fetch these components and these pages, and it will build it for you in front on your front end, right? But for SSD, we have to tell it, okay, go here, you'll open this file, and from there, okay, this is the page, and then it will fetch that page and build it for you. So we are
Okay.
supplying it the routes basically that okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is what the URL will be, and for that URL, this is what file and components you have to build for us.
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
finally, we are passing it a context, and this context seems to have its own like a lot of it seems to have support for it, but the main thing which we are doing over here is we are importing all our modules
Mm-hmm.
to and we are asking it to install it. So in case we have any of like our global what do you say data or
Mm-hmm.
any
Gotcha.
plugins that we need to use to build things, right? We import these and install.
That's interesting. So let's just say I have a global package that I want to, use in all my pages. So I don't have to import it in every page. I just have to,
Yes.
oh, that's nice.
Yes, you need to have like a modules folder, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
will set it up for you. So here they are using it to say add support for PWA apps, add support for internationalization, add support for Pinia. Pinia is like a next generation store for Vue.
Mm, okay.
Like the original store is the Vuex, right? But
Mm, yeah.
that Vuex is no longer recommended to be used for Vue 3 because of how it, in very simple terms, like the TypeScript support with Vuex is very like it has a lot of hacks and it will it will be a pain to use it.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
whereas Pinia does it very nicely and it does it with helps of the next gen hooks, right? With the use
Mm,
style that has been more coming up in the view. So yes, this will basically just pick up all our things which we have under our modules, right? And just install
that's
them
nice.
for us.
Nice. I like that.
So that's why. So we have a couple of new line default format. Let's see. Default format. No, not with. And why is this not working? That's interesting. TypeScript. So working when you're working with Vue 3, right? There is this catch where the TypeScript plugin, right, which VS
Mm-hmm.
Code provides, and the Vue's TypeScript, like the Vue plugins, have to add a lot of data on top of the default TypeScript plugin to actually
Okay.
start making sense out of what Vue is doing with the GS things.
Uh,
So what ends up happening here is that your your extension and your VS Code instance run a lot of TypeScript's language servers. Now I won't be going a lot into what language servers are. You can like Google
mm-hmm.
it out and understand a good chunk of it, right? But what ends up happening is we end up having a lot of what to say language servers here, and what that does is it ends up consuming a lot of RAM at the cost of not providing uh, correct information a lot of the times. So the Volar extension, as it's called, has support for something called as takeover mode. So what takeover mode does for us is it will basically shut down. We have if once we shut down the inbuilt
Mm-hmm.
TypeScript server, it will basically handle forwarding all the TypeScript language server information from the OG to us.
Nice.
So to just enable takeover mode, it's very simple. You go to your extensions, you type add grid built-in. So what add grid built-in does is it exposes all the default extensions that come pre-bundled with uh, VS Code. Inside that,
Mm-hmm.
search for TypeScript. You will find TypeScript and JavaScript language features and TypeScript language basics. You go to TypeScript and JavaScript language features and disable it for your current workspace and
Okay.
click on reboot. So, so once it's correctly working, it will give you this notification takeover mode enabled, and that way you know, okay, your language server is working correctly. And
Interesting.
these are just some extra. So yeah, this is the important. So and the extension to use, right? Whenever you're working with Vue 3 is Vola. So just search for Volar. Its actual name is Vue Language Features with Volar in bracket, right? And just install it over here. Right, you can
Wonderful.
use it with Vue 2 as well, but it's better, I would say, to use with V2, which is VETUR, which is for
No,
Vue
yeah,
2,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Volar for Vue 3. Right, so now if you see, right, the errors and stuff went because now we are using the correct TypeScript and stuff isn't clashing with each other and fighting
Interesting.
for hey, this is the correct TypeScript or this is the correct TypeScript. Coming next to what you notice, right? There's something called Tailwind. But before that, if
Mm-hmm.
you see, there's something called Uno CSS. So Uno CSS is like a new up and coming project, again built by the same person
And
who's
food, yeah.
definitely used, Anthony Fu. Yeah. And what Uno CSS brings to table is with Tailwind, you know, okay, hey, you have these whole bunch of classes that are predefined for you, right? And if you want to update them, you go to your tailwind.config.js, right? And you add your
Mm-hmm.
extra classes or you just outright
Yeah,
replace
yeah.
them up to you, right? But the problem with that is, let's say Tailwind generates everything with base of 4, right? But your design system, for some reason, calls to be everything generated with add cap of 2. So it should be instead of going 4, 8, 16, it should go to 4, 8, 16. Uh, things like that, right? 2, 4, and 2, 4, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So
Yeah, yeah.
what Uno CSS brings to the table is that uh, you can, instead of providing each of those things as an individual class, right? you can set a rule which is built something like this, right? And then it will automatically generate those whole bunch of CSS classes for you.
Interesting.
So let's say you want like a margin classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
With add gap of what is it, 4.
For yeah.
So what you do is margin, and you have like a slash t, which is placeholder for a number, right? And you give it such argument, and then you say the case CSS class margin t by 4. This helps you indicate like, okay, it should be at interval of by 4, right? And you add this to your Uno config, and then yes, similar to Tailwind, you just have to add classes, and those will automatically mathematically generated for you. And this
Wonderful.
again, like till Tailwind started supporting that just-in-time mode, it was also a fairly slow, right? Because
Hmm.
it had to go through all these things of like purging, where it had to scan all your view classes and stuff, right? So again, Uno help does that the just-in-time mode automatically, where it will automatically do things for you in the optimal way. So and that will obviously give you some performance benefits over Tailwind.
I love this approach. I might dive deeper into that soon. But we have an
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
question. What's this
Hmm.
browser? I have never
Oh,
seen this one before.
this is Edge, Microsoft Edge, with vertical tabs enabled. So you every like all of us are probably victim to having like a 1,000, 2,000 tabs open at the same time, right? And when you have them up here, right, you just see these icons and you can't make sense of, oh, if I have 10 GitHub repos, I'm like searching like, oh,
That's
this is
true.
this GitHub repo, this is, so I can just
That's
override it
true.
and see the names. And it will turn into a vertical scroll, so it's also easy, right? That where it's like instead of fighting here for space, it will just become like a normal vertical scroll for me, and I can just search for things over here.
That's interesting. Hmm.
Hmm.
I like that hack. Okay.
And
Let's
another
move.
benefit of it is, yeah, they, as you said, right, there are like it has a lot of presets, right? So you can
Hmm.
directly start using like classes that you're familiar with out of the box. So there's this preset wind, which is based on windy CSS, which is again based on tailwind. So they are basically the same thing. And if we just add this preset itself, right, the
Hmm.
things, the classes that are provided to us will automatically be in that tailwind format, which we are all familiar with if you have used tailwind. So,
I
and
love
so the
that.
first line over here is adding that there's something called as CSS resets when you start doing a front end app, where browsers have this annoying thing of how the default styling for everything, right, is different from a browser to browser. So Edge will do it differently for you, Firefox will do it differently for you, Brave will do it differently for you, right? Some places will
Hmm.
have a default line height of 21, some places will have a default line height of 20, right? So we got want to get rid of all those things. So a lot of apps like do it differently. There is a good project called as Normalized CSS, if
Yep.
you have
Yep.
heard of it, and that will basically reset all the CSS for you. Tailwind has its own thing as well. I'm not sure what they call it. I forgot it. It starts with V, if I'm not wrong, right? So this is basically just importing that reset CSS file for us automatically out of the box. And yep, so this is what is happening over here. Mm, let's see, do we have a weak config? Yep, we have a weak config. So under weak config, we should have, yes, Uno CSS, right? And what they're doing is they're using the Uno preset, they're using the attributify preset, and they're using an icon preset. So Uno preset is basically a starter for us. So
Hmm.
currently the Uno preset is same as the Tailwind Windy preset, right? But they might move away from it in the future. So that's why like they are these two different packages. There is this preset called as attributify. This is a very fun thing which was actually introduced by uh, windy CSS. So what it does is, right, you have normally you have these classes, right, and you have these long class files like, oh, this. But hey, what if you could just have the CSS classes as attributes?
Ooh.
How fun would that be? So you just write em, you add text sm and opacity 75 to it, right? And these attribute classes get converted actually into the CSS class, right? It is very helpful when in Tailwind, especially because, right, when you build components, you have this huge line of classes that, oh, and if you want to find some specific thing, you generally have to go like, oh, control F and oh, where is this class, right? But with this, like, okay, you know your padding is here, your width is here, your text class is here, your background class is here.
I like
So
this. This is
I
wonderful.
know, right? Like awesome separation forward. Like that, those the two rules, like the two things that I will explain to you, the dynamic generation of classes and this thing, right? They are like my biggest, what is it, problem with uh oh, I forgot to disable Virtu. Yeah, so keep in mind, right? If you have both Virtu and Volar, always disable
Mm-hmm.
V2 because they will conflict for you and they will. So we'll just go and disable it for our workspace. Cannot disable, yeah, disable both. So yes, if you have Vito and Volar both installed, always ensure that you disable one of the either depending on the project that you're using.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that is another benefit to having uh, active define modes. And the final thing over here, the shortcuts, these are like basically like the preset class. So in Tailwind, if you want to have like a
Mm-hmm.
default class, you would generally go to in your Tailwind CSS and then you would write like add thread apply and then dump the whole list of classes in there. Like this is basically doing the same thing. It will generate a BTN class and that BTN class will have all these features in it by default.
This is interesting.
And finally, the preset icons add support for icons with Uno CSS. So how, like generally when you add icons, right, you are adding it with help of the SVG files, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, the same person, Anthrifu, he himself built this feature where the icons themselves, right, they are built with uh, as CSS files. And now
Okay.
what you do is you just add the CSS class like
Mm-hmm.
carbon campsite, right? And it will add proper sizing classes for you and the icon data itself for you. And this will be injected via CSS instead of uh, normal code. So if you see over here, right, if I inspect it, like this is just a div, but the actual image, right, this is provided from here.
Mm-hmm.
Benefit of this, there are two benefits of it, I would say. Like in, if you're working with an SPA, right, and if you have SVG code inline over here, what would happen is you would have to like your parser, right? If you are running it in SPA mode, your view parser will have to go through these SVG inline things every time your component refreshes. But
Right,
with
right,
this,
right.
it doesn't need to do that because the thing is injected via CSS. And other thing is, it makes these things like sizing it and modifying the icon itself very simple, right? Because generally, what you
Mm-hmm.
would have is you would hack the SVG icon itself to always take sizes of its parent, right? But with this, you can just add a new height and width class, and
Mm-hmm.
it will automatically take over. It will override these things for you, which is awesome.
This is lovely. Huh.
And yes, another benefit of it would be you can take benefit of CSS masks. So let's say you have a colorful icon, right? But you want to generate a white
Mm-hmm.
icon out of it. So just you add a CSS mask with the new colors, and your icon will suddenly become what is a grayscale for you if you want to. So
Okay. This
that
this
is pretty much it for us, I would say. Oh yeah, let's check if data SSD work correctly. Oh, it won't be like we have to build it. So oops, and build SSD. Let's hope it works out. It did. Nice.
And
And
that was too quick. So quick.
I know, right? It was so quick, dude. Done in
But well, we don't have
20 seconds.
pages right now, so
Yeah, exactly. We can't say like actual evaluation of how the benefits of wheat will be once we have like fetching all that data and how fast it builds
exactly.
the site for you. That will be the actual evaluation first because this is first time for me as well as Herschel. I
Hmm.
would say that we are actually like we I Herschel hasn't touched wheat at all. I think. And for me, I have built like simple sites, like I'm working on my own blog refresh with Vite, right? But it still isn't at the stage where there are a lot of files or pages in there, right? So even I can comment on its performance. But with this project, I and Herschel are aiming to have it like test out how performant and the benefits of Vite as well. It's
Exactly. All right. So the build is done. Now what you wanna do? You wanna run the development server, I guess.
wow. Wait, I just realized I did yarn build SSD out of my habit. It shouldn't happen. We use yarn at work, and so it's like now my what to say. Like I will automatically do it without even thinking.
I know.
I'll just type yarn for some reason. You can say it's almost like muscle memory. So yeah, it's working for us.
Wonderful. So
Awesome.
it's not broken. It's working. We have something working in here. That's wonderful. And we have a question from Himanshu. If we can recap SSG
Hmm.
once again.
Sure. Let me have a sip of water. Just a second. Maybe Harshal, you
Sure, sure,
want to
sure.
like start with what example I did?
I am bad at explaining, these complex topics, but let me try. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and try to explain it in terms of OSS commit because that's what we are gonna, be building. So for OSS commit, the idea is to, have a website where people can go and check their progress and not just check it on the GitHub issue that they create. Now, we know that we are gonna have this update every every month and not every day. There is going to be some element of it that you can get the real time information, but that is not going to be in the initial MVP. Now, because we know that we are going to have this incoming data, this new data every month, it does not make sense for us to create the page every time someone makes a request to that particular URL. So what we are going to do instead is we every month we are going to collect that data, create a page out of it, and just show that page to the user. So whenever you Himanshu, if you try to access your page, it is not gonna recreate the whole page. It is gonna give you the page that is already created for you. Again, if there is a new data, the page is gonna get created and you are gonna get that particular page. So every time, just think of it in this way, that you are not getting the page is not created every time you request for it, but it is created once, and whenever you request for it, you get the same page. Yes. Anything that I missed here? Or was it
Uh,
on point?
I think I would say it's on point. Like it's a good
Yes.
that is basically why we are using SSD. Like we know when we know how our data is updating, when it is updating, and so we just build it and keep simple HTML GS files that you need, right, ready. And whenever you make a request, instead of building that whole thing for you in the real time, we just give you, hey, your HTML was already ready, take it.
Exactly. So this is gonna, from a user's perspective, this is gonna be, give a good experience because
Performance, yeah.
yeah, performance, good performance experience because the page is already created. You get the page instantly on your screen, so you don't have to wait for, I don't know, 30 to 20 seconds. Just just throwing out numbers out there, but yeah, you just don't have to wait for the page to load. The page is just right there in front of your eyes. So that
Yeah,
is
because
what is the advantage of SSG, and a lot of websites are now using SSG because it has this advantage, but it's still, I think, a bit complicated when you get to start doing dynamic data. But that's something we can talk about later on.
like in our case it's very important because we like if we start like calculating all these data in real time, right? Like let's say then we probably might have to fetch your real time data from GitHub, and then we will have to wait for the GitHub API to resolve for us. Then once the GitHub API resolves, we'll add all the data and update it in our database, right? And then we'll actually fetch it from the database. So if we want to serve all this data dynamically, it will have a decent amount of wait time. And initially, like while we built our MVP, we don't want to compromise. And hey, just because we aren't what they say, we haven't figured out the other things how to do it in a performant way for now. We don't want to what to say make you wait for 20-30 seconds every time we what to say fetch all that data for you. So
Exactly.
instead, we'll just keep it ready so that you can have it at your fingertips whenever you want.
Exactly. I hope Himanshu this explanation helps you. But if you still have any questions, just feel free to ask them. And I might try. He has already have the answers to a lot of our questions, but I might try my best to explain you as I can. Okay, so we have the project set up in place. We tested it out. It's running wonderfully. Just do we want to, just maybe code the initial the homepage, then we can see, how we are doing on time, and then maybe continue or do it on another stream.
I would say maybe like this itself, I think it was a lot to take in for
Okay.
people who are new to Vita and we itself. And we ourselves, I think we and a point that I realized today morning itself, right? We forgot to discuss like how the page itself or will look, right? So maybe over the next week, let's have a like get a like
Mm-hmm.
a very rough wireframe ready of what the page layout will be. So we just don't sit here and say, okay, let's move this 2 pixels, let's move this 2 pixels,
That that
stuff like that.
that actually, that makes a lot of sense because that is what I do almost a lot of times. But okay, that's a wonderful idea, and this also gives me another idea. So yes, if you could, just push the code on GitHub so that the
Oh
people can go through
yes,
it,
yes,
see what we have done.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
in the meantime, what I am gonna do is I'm gonna ask folks in the chat, like, if you have, any ideas of, the layout that you want us for this OSS commit website, do share it. I am not a designer. If you have seen any of my projects, you would know that. So feel free to, share your design ideas and we will try to code them along. So the link to the website, sorry, to the repo is in the chat now. Go through it, just check it out. And yeah, if you have any kind of ideas, the design ideas, you can just help us with that. So uh, just to give you all a more context, so what you want to do is we want to have a homepage where we just give the information of the project probably, and a text field where a user can probably enter their GitHub username. And once they enter their GitHub username, they go to their dedicated page. Now again, this is going to be a public page, and because you're not having any private data, so having a public page makes more sense over here. So we're going to have that, and on that public page we want to show the name of the user, get their profile picture from GitHub, and show their goals. And below we want to show them the progress, like, okay, for the month of January, they made this many commits, they opened this many pull requests, and how far they are from their goal. So that is the idea uh, for now. If you have more ideas, just you know open up how do you call it? Open up a discussion topic on the OSS commit repo, which I am gonna share the link just now, and we can discuss over there and see, what what you want to do. I think yes, we made
And over
a
here,
good decision because Himanshu says it was a lot, but it was
hmm,
awesome. He learned a lot, and he thinks yes, yeah. Himanshu, honestly, I also learned a lot. So it was interesting for me. The I would say the major takeaways for me would be definitely Vite.js, and then the idea around Uno CSS. Right, I'm like that's wonderful. I kind of really love the approach, and I'm gonna try to look into it more. And I might try to use Vite.js in my own website. I don't know, maybe, but I'll keep you all posted if I do that. Uh, so yeah, those were my main takeaways, and another takeaway was Vue 3 is gonna soon be the recommended version of Vue. So if you are gonna start with a project on Vue, try out Vue 3 instead of Vue 2 because uh, Vue 3 is gonna be recommended soon. So you might not find much support in Vue for Vue 2 than Vue 3. Okay, so yours is trying to push all the changes on GitHub. And okay, it's on GitHub. Wonderful,
edits.
wonderful. Uh, I'm just gonna later on try to update the README file so that it makes more sense. But
Yeah.
for now, this looks good. This looks wonderful. And I'm gonna try it on my own local desktop. And yeah, let's do that. And ooh, yeah, we definitely have to update the README file, but it's fine. All right.
Yep,
So
we'll
thank
later.
you. Yeah. All right. So thank you all for joining in. This was again, as usual, and a spontaneous stream. Not spontaneous, to be honest. Like Yash and I were talking about this for a while, but we never got to, do it. So it was kind of spontaneous, but it was fun. A lot of learning. We are gonna try to, build the whole OSS commit web app on the stream so that other people can join in, learn, and teach us as well. So if you want to, if you have more ideas, if you want to learn with us, if you want to, share with us, or if you want to teach us, just let us know, and we would be happy to, chat with you and get you on the stream as well. Yes, any last minute words?
Mm, no, I think that is all. My mom is calling me for dinner. So
That's a
let's wrap
wonderful
it up.
last minute word. That's a wonderful last minute word. All right, you all, we'll kind of leave you all over here and hope to see you all soon in the next stream. Have a nice one.